Okay, guys, before I get into my usual, ranting about life and love and philosophy and most importantly, force of will, of course, I will make the disclaimer that the entire deck build and probably a little funny joke or whatever is going to be in the description. So if you guys are just here for the deck build for Swordsman of Fire, then just go check that out and you can pause the video and go put on your favorite podcast or whatever. For anybody who actually wants to stick around and listen to my crazy pandering and, speaking and words when they come to me, stick around. It's going to be a good one. Also, guys, depending on when this video is posted, I think it's probably going to be posted after the release of the new set, Advent of the Demon King. So it's probably going to be around the second or third week of December, depending on how quickly it gets out. I just want to, and this goes out to my dudes and, dudettes as well. This past month was Movember, or No Shave November, or I guess less commonly known as Mental and Physical Health Awareness for Men Month. And on top of that, the 19th of November, little known fact for anybody who actually cares, is actually International Men's Day, which to my surprise is not very well known. So, just a shout out to the hardworking and a lot of the times, unsung heroes of the boys and the men of our world. And, like for all you dudettes out there, and it doesn't even have to be this time of year, just any time of year, go to all the bros and the dudes and the fams in your life that you love and respect and revere, and just, tell them like, good job, bro. Keep it up. All right, so enough of my mushy gushy, men's health shout out. One particular boy that definitely didn't shave this past November was the Swordsman of Fire. So the Swordsman of Fire is a Wanderer type ruler who's got Judgment for 1 red and 3 colorless, though the way that this deck works, it's actually way cheaper than that, but I'll get into that later. Energize for red, love Energize. And then you may pay the attribute cost, and this is the most important part, of Wanderer Resonators with will of any attribute. Wanderer Resonators you control gain first strike. Now, it's important that you guys remember that first strike part, because I swear to the good graces that I do not remember the first strike part ever. So, also another important caveat: first strike only applies to when you're attacking in force of will, not when you're defending. All right. So on the flip side, the Fire Swordsman becomes Dimension Brigade's leader, Adelbert, who is a 12/12 Wanderer J ruler, who has the following abilities, and I think there's like a bazillion of them, right? So he's got this. When this card enters your field, you may put a Wanderer Resonator from your hand into the field. Whenever a light resonator, so of any kind, doesn't have to be a wanderer, enters the field, you may put 2 1/1 counters on this card. Whenever a fire resonator enters your field, this card deals 500? Yeah, 500 damage to target resonator. That would have been sick if it was opponent, but that's whatever. To resonator is pretty good too. Whenever a water resonator enters the field, draw a card, and here's the most important part, and the one that actually applies to this particular deck build. Whenever a wind resonator enters the field, this card gains flying and barrier until the end of turn. What? Flying and barrier? This thing is pretty much for free. I mean, unless when you're casting an actual creature, a for free that one card with Rayla, the thing that's like a 3-drop for a white and 2 colors or whatever, that gives you +8/+8, but it gives you flying and barrier. So that's phenomenal. This dude's pretty much like the J ruler equivalent of Skittles, or for anybody who doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, that one blue Cthulhu from back in Atlas Cluster. Anyway, and then the final ability is whenever a Darkness Resonator enters the field, your opponent discards a card. So in this deck, we actually only run Fire and Wind Resonators, so the only 2 abilities are the ones that give you Flying and Barrier, and the doing 500 damage to Resonator. Though, again, I don't really care for that 500 to Resonator. It would have been sick if it was something else. So the way that this deck works is, it's pretty much what I wanted the new guild deck to be able to do, but it does it way better, just because his ruler side lets you pretty much play all your Wanderers for any color, and on top of that, on his J ruler side, it lets you spit out 1 for free when he flips. So, okay. This particular card, I mean, just good in any deck. So just right off the bat, I run 3 of the Nameless Mists. And for anybody who doesn't know what it does, look at your opponent's hand, choose a non-resonator card. Non-resonator, super important. When this, then they discard that card, put a 1/1 counter on target resonator you control. So this card actually works really well with the main Wanderer Resonator, which we just nicknamed Goku. He's like the Monkey King or whatever, dude. Because what he does is that when he enters the field, you return target non-Magic Stone, non-Jailer card to your opponent's hand. And essentially, if it's like you want to have some addition hate on them or something like that, boop, pop one of these things, put a 1/1 counter onto Goku. So I run 3 of the Nameless Mist. And just on top of that, in any particular deck that can run Darkness, this and Scorn of Dark Alice are pretty good just for slowing down your opponent. It's kind of like a preemptive counter if you think about it. Or hand control, whatever. Anybody who watches these videos knows what the hell hand control is, so I'll just stop there. Then I run 4 Idols of Willpower. Now, I've been running this in pretty much almost any deck build since the release of Ancient Knights, and I think I'm going to for quite some time because it does 2 amazing things. One, aside from drawing you a card, it gives you life, right? It gives you life points, which is amazing because, especially with this deck, which, I mean, you could either win fairly quickly or you'll have to stall for a little bit until you get enough stones to be able to ramp this dude and do a decent amount of damage when he flips. So you need that life to keep you in the game. And then the second, and I think a little bit overlooked attribute of this card is the fact that it is colorless, right? So since I'm running 3 colors in this deck, and I'll go over those colors when I get to the stones, it's important that I have a first turn play, right? And if I don't have the usual hard cast cost cards of either red or black or green on the first turn, I don't actually have any 1-drop greens in this deck. Though you could sideboard in Tamas if you wanted to, but that's not important right now. This thing lets you fill in for any color that's on the first turn, so it's pretty sick. It gives you draw, gives you life. You can play it for any color first turn, so I think it's got a decent amount of value. I was hoping that I'd see more deck builds here on YouTube being played with that card, but I haven't been seeing it too much. I don't know why. And oh god, if any of you guys, like, I don't know why, but my locals, they haven't gotten the Sprinting Flame Horse as the promo yet. Have you guys gotten it yet? Like, I really want to get my hands on like a playset of these things because I run Sprinting Flame Horse in any deck that's more ruler centric or J ruler centric than it is Resonator centric. So I run 3 of the Sprinting Flame Horse, which most people know is a hard cast 1 red, 2/2 Resonator with swiftness. And it has inheritance for 1 red, so target J/Resonator gains +2/+2 and swiftness until the end of turn. Now, even without the field bonuses that I'll show you guys later for Wanderers, when this dude flips, he's a 12/12. So if I give him haste on the turn that he flips, he just became a 14/14. And if I have the good luck of being able to play one of the Gokus for a hand for free, he just became a 14/14 flying, haste, and barrier. So I think that's kind of the ideal combo. So Sprinting Flame Horse is pretty baller. I run 3 of these Sprinting Flame Horses. Now, this is a card that, again, I haven't been seeing too much play of, but I think has a lot of utility, though it is geared towards a specific kind of opponent's deck. So this could be a card that you could, for example, put into your sideboard and then fill in with Tamas if you needed more green Resonators, depending on what your opponent's playing. But I run 3 of Faerur's, and I'm definitely butchering that name, I apologize. Faerur's Spell, which is a 1-drop green quick cast chant that has cancel target spell with quick cast. And a lot of people play quick casts on their turn without even really realizing the utility of the quick cast. So you don't even necessarily need to use this as a defense during your own turn. You can keep the one particular combo that I came up with a little bit recently is you could actually put in one of the Idols of Willpower during your turn and then keep 1 green open. And then if your opponent plays a quick cast during their turn, you can cancel it with Faerur's Spell, or if that's not the case, since, you know, like paying the 1 into the 1 colorless to banish it to gain 500 and draw a card activates it pretty much quick cast speed, you can just pop this during your opponent's turn and you haven't lost any particular will for not casting that cancel. So I run 3 of Faerur's Spell. Then I used to have this at 3, but I geared it down to 4, or I geared it up to 4. Goodness gracious, because I found that I needed more draw on the deck. So I run 4 of the food supply, and I still think that this card is so morbid, right? Like, you've got this happy little piggy here, and you know, like, the next scene, if it was painted, it was this thing getting, like, pretty much eaten by that creepy lizard dude in the background. Anyway, so it is a 1-drop red quick cast chant that has put 5 strength counters onto your J-Ruler and draw a card. So this helps us siphon through the deck a little bit faster, and the 5 strength counters are for this next card. Okay, so I run 2 of the Burning Awakening. These are the only cards that have the additional cost of needing strength counters. So if you don't run into these things, but you've been loading your field with strength, or your ruler with strength counters because of food supply, it's a bit of a waste, but because of all the drawing, especially with 4 food supplies, there's a pretty good chance you run into these too. So it has a decently lengthy explanation here for its effect. So it is a 2 hard red quick cast chant battle arts that has, as an addition to additional cost to play this card, remove 5 strength counters from your J ruler. Target J/Resonator gains +1000/+1000 until the end of turn. So this thing, on top of our J ruler side of our ruler here, so he's a 12/12 base. We give him +2/+2 with a sprinting flame horse. We pop the 5 strength counters and play this thing for 2, which would be him getting, I think he becomes like a 24/24. If we've got one of the fields that I'll show you guys later for Wanderers, he can become a 28/28 flying barrier if you played a green Resonator for free, for example, from hand with this flip effect. You have a 28/28 flying swiftness barrier going towards your opponent. If you've been chipping away at them for the first like 3 or 4 turns to get this ability, or to get this stack going, you've won, right? Like that's kind of like the major like win con of this game, or this game in general, is to win with only this dude. No, this particular deck is pretty much, it's ruler centric. You're gonna have this dude flipping over. You want to have all that red available to be able to pump into sprinting flame horse and the whatever Mahuzits that's called, the Burning Awakening, and then just hit them for more than half of their life if they're not playing a ridiculous life gain deck. Then I've got, continuing the 2 costs here, I've got 3 Bloodsprays, and this is another one of those cards that kind of has become a staple in any darkness deck that I bake. I bake decks. Sometimes I bake cakes, but most of the decks. I don't know what's with my tongue tied in this time, guys. Blah, 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 blah. Give me a second to compose myself. Alright, so Bloodspray. It is a card that you play for 2 hard darkness. It is a mystery chant. Unfortunately, it doesn't have quick cast, which I think was a bit of a waste, but, you know, you can't win them all. It's got the following ability. Draw 2 cards. This card deals 300 damage to you. Now that's important because a lot of people choose to forget that little side effect, so you are losing life. But since we have our life force, or Idol of Willpower, that is not a life force of any kind, you get 500 life, so losing life isn't too bad. It also has the Awakening. Remove a mystery counter from your J-Ruler. Destroy target Resonator with total cost 2 or less. So, in terms of field removal, this is all we have. We will have Goku, the Monkey King, a little bit later, but this is the only thing that deliberately destroys a Resonator on the field. I run 3 of the Red Riding Hoods, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a decent amount of Stone Ramp in this deck. By that I mean like 3 other cards other than these. So getting it to the 7/7 isn't super hard, but ideally what we want to do with the Riding Hoods is use them for blocking fodder so we can get stones and prevent our opponent from doing mad damage to our life points. And speaking of Stone Ramp, we've got 3 of Magic Stone Analysis. Now, I only run 3 basic Magic Stones, so if you get basic Magic Stones on your first 2 or 3 turns, and you draw into these things, they're kind of dead cards. But they're pretty good because, unlike that new Gil chant, you get them onto the field recovered, arrested, or whatever the word is. You know when it's not tapped. I'm going to use magic terms because that's what I grew up with. I'm really good at Force of Will, I'm sure you guys can tell. I run 4 of the Sun Wukong. That is his freaking name. Damn, this freaking teacher, and damn man, I've always called this thing Goku, so I just called him Goku too. So this is pretty much the Mac Daddy, the backbreaker, the main Mama Jama of this particular deck. So Sun Wukong, Enforcer of the Future. That's interesting, I didn't know his name was Enforcer of the Future. Huh, I learned something new every day. So he is a 2-hard green Wanderer Resonator, but because the likelihood of this thing being cast later after we flipped our Fire Swordsman is fairly low, we're pretty much going to be casting this dude for whatever bloody color we want as long as we stay on our ruler side. And then if we're lucky enough, we want to have this thing for our game-winning play, one of these in our hand, so that when we flip him to his Adelbert, what a geeky name, to his Adelbert side, we want to be able to play this thing from hand for free to get this dude flying in barrier. So I run 4 of them. I mean, I really wish you could run 5 or 6. I mean, not even of any other particular card, just this dude, because he's so freaking good. He is a 6/5 Will of Despair, though Will of Despair doesn't really matter in this deck, with flying, which is phenomenal. I love when you have 1 or 2 drop costs cards that are flying. And it has the following ability. When this card enters the field, return target non-Magic Stone, non-J/Resonator card to its owner's hand. So essentially, all that means is additions. I don't know why they need... I think this card either had a typo or should have been eroded to just be non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler cards, right? Because, like, having a 2-drop hit the field with flying and then be able to flip your J-Ruler, I guess, back to its ruler side or whatever, would be kind of whack. But I feel like it should be able to bounce Resonators, right? Like, right? Am I wrong? Am I being unreasonable? Right? Come on. Look at that face, dude. That dude should be able to flip Resonators. Come on. So I run 4 of these dudes. They're pretty awesome. Yeah, this is like the main Resonator in the deck. There's not that many Resonators in this deck. TBH, ladies and gents. Now, this is the field that I was talking about earlier, and if you guys know anything about Wanderers, you probably were anticipating for me to, reveal this thing sometime or later. It is the Interdimensional Space. They really like that word, interdimensional. Something tells me that there's a bunch of science geeks who make these cards, but it is from Japan, so that's not super, super surprising. So 3 of them. It is a 2-hard green cast addition. I super wish it was 1 green and 1 colorless. The hard green cast does come up as a problem every now and then, but this is just me complaining because this deck could be so much better if there was a few other changes, but whatever. So it has the following ability. You may pay 1 less to do Judgment of Wanderer J/Resonators. So this could be used in decks like the Gil Lapis, Rebel of Darkest Fires or whatever. It's used in this one, obviously. It could be used in Wanderer for stuff like Alice. But anyway, so you may pay 1 less to play Wanderer Resonators. Since I don't actually play any Wanderer Resonators in this deck that have any colorless to their cost, this doesn't help us with that, which is unfortunate. But in other deck builds that run the Gil Lapis, Usurper, Maddening Power, or whatever, the white-black colorless one, or if they run the Valentina, that's darkness and water, those ones have colorless costs, so those could be sideboard cards. I didn't make a sideboard for this deck, and I haven't made them in a while just because I haven't been making super competitive decks. And then the final part, which I think is my favorite personally, Wanderer J/Resonators you control, gain plus 400, plus 400. So these, the guys, make flipping this dude easier. And honestly, my favorite and like the ideal situation is to have 2 of these things on the field so that his cost is only one colorless and 1 red, which is pretty bonkers. He flips over, he's a 12/12 base with plus 800. If we give him the increase of the 200 in swiftness from Flame Horse, then he's like a 22/22 with haste flying, and then if we drop another thing, flying and barrier, and then all we need is the burning, oh jeez! Oh guys, I'm sorry, I do that way too often. I gotta get a better stand. I've got no excuse. I got no excuse, I'm sorry. The Burning Awakening, yeah. And then Burning Awakening would make him a 32 flying swiftness barrier, so it gets pretty crazy. All you really have to do is make sure you make it to that late enough game. And now that Priscia is no longer playable, suck it Priscia, that's still doable. It's very doable. And then to go off of Wukong's bouncing additions back to hand, I run Truth Amongst Darkness, which is a 3-drop card from Ancient Knights. Sorry guys, I just had a minor stroke there. It is a 3-cost card, 2 colorless and 1 hard cost darkness with Remnant, and that's the important part. Look at your target opponent's hand and choose a card. They remove that card from the game. So this thing, yeah, it's good. It's super good. Especially during those turns that you have odd numbers of will and you don't have too much to play with. And then, this is actually some cards that I'm borrowing from Teacher because I never drew Severing Winds. Like, even in pre-release, I think I maybe pulled one Severing Winds, but I gave it to Dayman because he just loves these cards. And anyway, I never got any Severing Winds in my card, so I'm just having these on lend from Teacher. It is Severing Winds, one of the staples of competitive play nowadays. And look at these beautiful full arts. That's amazing. I like that. Actually, it's kind of cool because the Fire Swordsman Big Mac Daddy himself is actually on this card. So, so it's a 4-cost, 2 green and 2 colorless, though most of the time we're going to be playing it for its free cost in its effect here. So it's quick cast. If your opponent played 2 or more cards this turn, you may pay essentially its cost less to play this card, cancel target spell. So I run 3 of these things. Originally in this deck, I had the 4th color. I had blue in here as well so that I could run Spinning Aqua Soul, which essentially would let me constantly just like get these things back from grave, and it'd be amazing because I just keep free or hard casting cancels out of my opponent's feeble attempts to defeat me. So in terms of stones, I guess I've been getting into the bad habit of running more than 10 stones in pretty much most of the decks I've been building recently, and I really need to stop doing that. But when you're running 3 colors like I've been doing in the last few decks I've been making, you kind of have to. So I run 3 of the stone from the Dark Castle, these stones that came with Rhea starter deck. Pretty self-explanatory. These things are awesome because of the mystery counters, and I use them for that blood card, the card of blood. You know, the one that makes you draw and kill stuff. Though, a funny little thing, and again, this is more just my clutter brain forgetting this stuff, so this isn't an insult to anybody who actually knows how to play this game properly, but I keep forgetting that you don't actually need the bloody mystery counters to cast that card. All that does is, you know, accentuate its usefulness in killing a 2-drop or less on your opponent's field. You don't need it for the lose 300 draw 2 cards. So, just as a heads up for people who are a little bit more airheaded like I am sometimes. Then I run 1 Darkness Magic Stone. That's pretty much it. Just Darkness Stone. 1 of the Fire Magic Stones. And 1 of the, oh, lo and behold, Wind Magic Stone. So those ones are the ones that we're going to be searching out with the Magic Stone analysis. And then I run 1 of the Magic Stone of Black Silence. Darkness and green, yep. And 1 of the Stone of Scorched Christian Bales. And my last 4 Magic Stones in the deck are, and these are cards that I took from the cards that teacher left at my house. Don't tell him. Shh, this is between you and me. The Magic Stone of Blasting Waves. To color our 2 most important colors in this deck, which are green and red. Alrighty guys, this was, it wasn't intended to be, but this is kind of like my Movember deck build. I've been trying to put together, this wasn't the card I was focusing on, this wasn't the deck I'm focusing on, and I apologize to the one viewer who made the request for, I guess, a better, more modern deck build than the one that I made against Scribble Sketch like months ago now of 1,000 Keys. But I mean, I apologize, my dude. I can't make that deck well. Like, that deck is pretty much would have done what this deck does, but significantly shittier and with way too many colors. Like it ran all the colors. I needed to run that new statue in the temple card or whatever from Ancient Knights that makes you make your stones tap for every color. So I'm just gonna say this right now. I mean, masterfeja, I've been defeated. I cannot make a good 1,000 keys deck that is New Frontiers playable and like decently good. So I apologize. I tried. I failed. It was frustrating, but it was fun. It was fun, and it led me to this. Right, like this was one of the rulers that I had kicking around in my binder. That I was like, you know what? I pulled this dude back when I was opening like a couple of boxes of my Echoes of the New World just to get those cards that I really wanted. And I never ended up building his deck, so you know, I kind of used Movember as an excuse to put this dude together, and I had a lot of fun. I guess, and you guys can totally shut off the video. There's not going to be much force of will, important stuff from this point on. It's just me talking about stuff I want to do with the channel. If you guys, depending on when we actually release those videos, you might see this in the future. You might have already seen it. Dorian, Jay, and I were thinking about migrating some of our old videos, like depending on how old they are by the time this is actually released, or just posting on 2 sites from now on. We want to start migrating some of our videos over to a new platform altogether. I mean, freaking bless YouTube. It's been a great run, man, but it just seems like the ship's sinking a little bit. So we were thinking about going to this new website called, or it's not new, it's just new to us, called VidMe. Now, we haven't made the channel yet as of me recording this video, so I don't know when we'll start doing it. I still plan on posting all of my videos, you know, all the stuff that I make personally, not just stuff that I'm in, on the uSpot channel here on YouTube, but we're taking very serious steps towards opening up a uSpot channel on VidMe. I still want to push Nova and Mecharaptor and stuff like that to start doing stuff on Twitch. Either way, it just seems like with all this controversial stuff that's been happening on YouTube and all of the hate towards content creators and content consumers, it just seems like YouTube is kind of going down. Again, we don't plan on not posting stuff on YouTube anytime soon, but guys, think about maybe jumping ship to different websites. It doesn't even have to be for our content. I guess one more thing is I was thinking of starting a uSpot channel specifically for card games, just because, again, Dorian, Jay, and I, we've just been hashing stuff. You know, we spitball. We're guys with a lot of free time. And we were thinking about maybe starting channels, like we still keep the main uSpot channel for, you know, most of our gobbledygook and all that fun stuff. We were thinking of making a couple of branch channels. So one specifically for uSpot card gaming, maybe one for uSpot lifestyle, so like we want to go around just eating competitions or goofy stuff like that, or ones for like retro games specifically, one for horror games specifically. I don't know if that'd be more effort than it's worth, but I've noticed that there's a lot of content being consumed in terms of the card game stuff and some of the stuff for the retro games, not so much some of the other games that we play and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe you guys would prefer not getting constant beratement in your notifications for stuff that isn't card games, if that's all you consume on our channel. So a lot of stuff to think about. You know, drop some stuff in the description, in the comment section. And if you guys have any suggestions for any way we can make the channel better in general, or for me to improve my card game stuff, aside from me essentially learning how to speak English and not being a stuttering mess all the time. So yeah, you know, guys, love each other, support each other, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.